And this one has two different crusts that you can make. There's an almond flour crust recipe, and then there's a pecan or a walnut crust recipe. We're doing a pecan crust this morning for lunch. I already have everything in the crust mixed in this bowl. You're going to start with a half of a cup of raw pecans or walnuts, whichever you prefer. 4 medjool dates. So your medjool dates are a little bit larger than your deglet dates or your cooking dates. You could use deglet dates if you want to just double it, use 8, and you'd probably need to blend them a little more because they're normally a little harder. 2 tablespoons of shredded coconut, unsweetened, a half teaspoon of vanilla extract, and a 1/4 teaspoon of your salt of choice. I would recommend Celtic sea salt or Himalayan salt. There's a salt called real salt that they mine out of Utah, but I wouldn't use table salt, and that goes for any of the cooking. The Bible talks about a salt that's lost its savior, right? And your Himalayan salts, your Celtic salts, your real salts, any of your natural salts will have up to 77 to 84 trace minerals. And you would be able to take those salts and put it on your tongue, and it would just taste salty. It would have a nice salty flavor. But if you took table salt, sodium chloride, and you put that on your tongue, it would burn. Because it's just sodium and chloride. It's had everything else stripped from it. And all of our cells in our bodies have sodium and potassium entries and exits, if you will. And so your table salt, your sodium chloride, will raise your blood pressure. But if you're using a natural salt, it can help stabilize your blood pressure. So I wouldn't recommend using sodium chloride or your table salt. I would recommend Celtic salt would probably be my first choice, but Himalayan pink salt also works. Whatever you have readily available.
What did you say 2 tablespoons of before you mentioned the vanilla extract?
Unsweetened shredded coconut.
Shredded coconut.
Yes. Yep. Yeah.
Okay, I got the printout of the recipe for that.
Okay,
Perfect.
all right.
Perfect. Okay. All right. All right. I saved this. Writing those down. And so you just get all of that and you put it into your blender, high-speed blender. I would recommend if you're wanting to get it into a lot of plant-based cooking, I would recommend getting a high-speed blender. I used to do a lot of barbecuing back before I went plant-based. I used to eat anything that wasn't bolted down. I would try to eat it probably. And I remember in the Air Force, I was in South Korea a couple of times, and I'd be out there with my coat on in the snow barbecuing. I love barbecuing, but this is really the barbecue for your plant-based recipes. Is your high-speed blender. You can turn it into your cheesecakes. You can turn it into cheese. You blend up a lot of your nuts and seeds like that into different sauces. And so I would recommend getting a high-speed blender. It'll make your plant-based cooking a lot easier. A dehydrator is another thing you could look at getting. I think would be a good investment, but definitely a high-speed blender. So I'm going to take this in here to the kitchen and blend this up for us, and I'll be right back. And your medjool dates that I'd mentioned earlier, you can normally find at Walmart or Publix out near the fruit, in the fruit section. Originally I was looking in the dried fruit aisle, and they're not there. So you want to look out near the fresh fruit. They usually have it out there.
So this is just your crust, right?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, this is just the crust. And you'll normally find that they have pitted dates, but they're usually a little more expensive. And so if you're willing to cut the pits out yourself, you can get maybe an extra 30% product for the same price. And so, but you want to make sure you remove those pits before you blend it up.
Yes.
Otherwise, it'll sound like Vietnam in your kitchen. Yeah, so right now I'm just pushing the crust down in the bottom of whatever. We would normally use a springform pan, but we have both of ours in the freezer, so I'm just using a Pyrex dish here. And you just push it down to form your crust. And then I will get this rinsed out. Thank you. And we will make our filling. You're going to have 3 cups of raw cashews. If you don't have a high-speed blender, or even if you do, a lot of the times it's better to soak your cashews or any of your nuts overnight, or at least for 2 to 4 hours, and that'll help them blend up smoother. You won't have to blend for quite as long. That goes for any of your desserts, nice and smooth. We're also going to use a half a cup of lemon juice, and a half a cup of coconut oil. It recommends unrefined.
Half ou quarto?
Half of a cup. Half of a cup of coconut oil. So we mentioned a half cup of lemon juice, half cup of coconut oil, and then a half cup of maple syrup, or whatever sweetener of choice. We're using agave today. Maple syrup would probably be a better choice if you were looking to watch your glycemic index, than agave would be. Honey might give too strong of a honey flavor, so if you can play with it if you want. Maybe use half honey, half agave, if honey is all you have available. And then a tablespoon of vanilla extract. And so, really 4 teaspoons vanilla extract we would want.
4 teaspoons.
Yeah, and I would double the filling ingredients on the sheet here. Otherwise, you're gonna have a really thin cheesecake.
Okay.
So I would double the filling. The crust ingredients you can leave single. The filling I would double.
Okay.
And then a half a teaspoon of your salt of choice, your Celtic, Himalayan salt, whatever it may be. So we've got our cashews here, they've been soaked. We're gonna put those in the blender. Correct, yeah. So that was the sweetener, and the maple sweetener and the vanilla, and then the coconut oil, and this is the lemon juice.
What sweetener you use?
We used agave today. Maple syrup would be probably the best choice to use. I'm going to start this up, so it's going to be a little. You can smooth this out. You could use parchment paper to press it down once it's cooled a little bit, but if you were to do that now, it would just stick to the parchment paper. And that'll go straight into the freezer. And you would want that to freeze for at least a few hours, maybe even overnight. And that'll solidify up so that you can slice it after it's frozen.